People been asking me about T.L. Swope. Well, I can't tell you where he's been, but I can tell you this. He's back.
The world is an insane asylum, and the inmates are in charge. Yes, I am back. And welcome to another edition of Inverted Reality TV. I am your host, T.L. Swope. I've been away for a while dealing with the vicissitudes of life. You know, sometimes life throws you a curveball and you have to step back and reassess and analyze and regroup. And this I've done. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Now, you know, in the past, I've talked quite a bit about the leftists and socialists and communists and Antifa and those groups and the like, how I thought that they were dangerous, and I still think they're dangerous, and I think they're getting even more dangerous because they are up in the ante, and they're talking about straight up violence, not just attacking people in the streets and beating and shooting, but actually they're talking about arming themselves and just flat out shooting people. Now, I have an article that I want you to see here, one of several that I've seen recently, and this one here is by Breitbart, and it's entitled Patreon Tolerates Calls for Violence from Leftists While Demonizing Conservatives. Now, that's not what I want to focus on, not on the aspect of the Patreon and the rest of these platforms that are censoring conservatives and letting crazy loony leftists do and say whatever they like. That's not really what I want to focus on. I want to focus on this particular, just a couple of people or groups mentioned in this article that the things that they're saying, and to just give you an example of how dangerous these people are becoming. It talks here about how Patreon is letting these guys get away with stuff, and and while they're banning right wingers for supposedly the same stuff or whatever, but they let them get away with everything. And here it just goes into a little bit more about that also. I won't get into reading all of that small talk stuff. But here's one group here that this group called Far Left Watch monitors these kind of groups. And they found one here on Patreon here that they're mentioning in this article, and it's called the Revolutionary Left Radio. And it says a far left pro-communist podcast which calls for the violent expropriation of the wealth and property of the owning class. And here is a tweet from Revolutionary Left Radio. And it says, F it. I just identify as a militant revolutionary communist who wants to put every fascist in the world against the wall and violently expropriate the wealth and property of the owning class. I'm hoping that catches on. Ha ha. And it says the account also approvingly quoted a pro-violence quote from Mao Zedong, the genocidal Chinese communist leader responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of his own citizens. And there's a meme of him with, lasers coming out of his eyes and some choice words. And his tweet below that says, a revolution is not a dinner party or writing an essay or painting a picture. It cannot be so refined, so leisurely and gentle, so temperate, kind, restrained, and magnanimous. A revolution is an insurrection, an act of violence by which one class overthrows another. Folks, these are the kind of things that I've been talking about. When you see that these leftist groups, whom the Democrat Party embraced, that you never hear them condemn them for their actions or anything, and then you have these Democrat socialists who they're propping up, from the young lady out there in New Jersey, Ocasio-Cortez, or whatever her name is, Bernie and Beto, and All of these guys, they all agree with this ideology. But I digress. Back to the article. It says its founder, according to Far Left Watch, Brett Anderson, was arrested in 2017 for disorderly conduct and obstructing police during a protest against a pro-Trump rally in Omaha. The group's Twitter header features masked militants wielding rifles. And you can see here in this screenshot, you can see them. They've got guns, and one guy's got rounds hanging around his shoulder like a bandolier. And then there's more here, and this guy here is I guess, running this podcast called the Guillotine Podcast. Well, that sounds nice and inclusive and loving. And Far Left Watch has got some more information on that. It says the Far Left Podcast currently has over 350 patrons who donate monthly to their show, which is hosted by an extremist who uses the monitor Dr. Bones, as well as Brett Anderson. Dr. Bones, who is also a regular guest on the Revolutionary Left Radio, is a self-described egoist, communist, insurrectionist, and illegalist. He also has his own dedicated Patreon page, which that he has been using in order to inspire resurrection. After we brought this to the attention of Patreon and Patreon support, Dr. Bones removed that language from his page, as well as language where he discussed firing massive 44 caliber rounds at the heads of politicians and capitalists. Not to worry, we archived it before he made the changes, says Breitbart. And here we are. We've got screenshots with them highlighting what I just said, and then the screenshot of it after it's cleaned up. And then they go into explaining what I just said here. Basically, they're showing that, how he removed it and what he had said earlier. And then it goes on to say, in tweets archived by Far Left Watch, the podcast host also posted the following. Need some inspiration? ITT, plain words, a pamphlet found at the site of several anarchist bombings in an attempt to kill the rich. Reminder, in the event of an actual insurrection, riot, or revolt, you do not have to out-debate your political opponents. You have to outshoot them. Internet is for propaganda only. The streets decides everything else. Listen to me. Threaten rich people with violence. In every city, every state, start building guerrilla cells alongside your mutual aid orgs up the insurrection. And then it says an image linked to that tweet instructs readers to conduct attacks against police stations, political party offices, etc., as well as public buses, trams, and trains. Breitbart News previously reported on how Patreon allowed a left-wing podcaster who praised acts of violence and theft against Trump supporters in Oakland, California. After briefly suspending the podcaster's account, he was allowed back on. Breitbart also reported on an Antifa account on Patreon that used the platform to distribute a poster encouraging supporters to attack right-wingers with bike locks, a reference to a real incident in which a left-wing professor attacked multiple Trump supporters with just such a weapon. Patreon did not respond to Breitbart News for comment. So, folks, there you have it. This is what's going on in America. Like I said in the thumbnail that you saw, we are at war. Not with Russia, not with China, not with all these other people, although they're making moves too. But this here is more immediate and more danger, and it's from within right now. These people are ready to explode at any moment. So I got one word of advice for you. Prepare. Strap up. Stay alert. Get ready. Get ready, because these nuts, they are not going anywhere. They think now that they have a few of their well-known socialist people in office, they're emboldened, and they're figuring that all they have to do is get rid of conservatives and get Trump out of office, and it's over. They're going to take over. See, they cannot stand anything that represents capitalism. They can't not stand anything that represents family, that represents the things that built this country. They hate it. They're anti-God and they're evil, and their father is the devil. So they have no morals. You cannot negotiate with these people. You cannot sit down and bargain with these people. Just like Saul Alinsky said, the self-proclaimed Democrat socialist. He said, power, you can't have someone give it to you. You can't negotiate it for it. It must be taken by violence. And that's exactly what they plan on doing. This is a grave threat to our country. And I don't understand why these people are allowed to get on social media and say these type of things, and the CIA and everybody else and all of these other governmental agencies are not coming down on these people. But that being said, that's why you have to take your own protection into your own hands. So like I said before, strap up. I have, and I will continue. Now, what do you think about this? What do you think about Antifa and the rest of these guys? What do you think about them talking about putting people up against walls and taking their wealth and everything? You know, history repeats itself. Will we sit back and allow it to happen again? I certainly hope not. There's enough patriots in America to take this down. And we need to do it. And we need to get a plan. And we need to be ready, because these clowns are about to act out. So with that, leave your comments. Let me know what you think. And as always, my friends, speak freely.